And hello. This week is just myself and Ian. It is an important date. It's the 8th of December, farmer's holiday, shopping holiday in Ireland. So Shane, being a culchie to the big smoke, he's gone off shopping for the day. He's got a prior engagement. Ian, did you get your Spotify Wrapped?
I did get my Spotify Wrapped, Frank. Yes.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting to see what your top artists or songs are. Weren't too surprised with the songs now. I really didn't think they would have been in my top, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting because it's everyone shares it, and you get to see some weird insights into people that you thought you knew quite well. People, who walk around wearing Tool t-shirts and stuff, and then they put up their top five, and it's like Drake and yeah, Taylor Swift and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird that came out because I read an article there when it came out last week. There was an article in Stereo Gum written by Nate Rogers on the 17th of November. I read it when it came out, and it was about what would you say, Ian, maybe not your favourite Pavement song, but what Pavement song comes to mind when you think about Pavement?
Harness Your Hopes.
Yeah. The article was about that and about Spotify algorithms. I'm not sure what you know about Harness Your Hopes, but that was a B-side, or not even a B-side. It was an outtake from 1997's Brighten the Corners. So it was a very obscure song, and I remember you telling me about Harness Your Hopes, saying, oh, I really like that Pavement song. And you said it to me, and I kind of felt ashamed of myself because I was like, shit, why do I know this song? Am I just forgetting the title of this song or what the hell's going on? Because
Yeah.
I've been a huge Pavement fan for years, and I have all their albums, and I was like, I don't know this song he's talking about. Maybe it's one of the filler tracks that I had never just didn't remember the name of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really obscure outtake from an album. Didn't make it. They decided they weren't going to include it on the album. But to this date now, in early December, it has 30 million plays, and it is their top song by like a good 3 million, I think, maybe.
Jeez.
There's a guy called Damon Kurkowski, who is the lead singer of 80s, 90s band Galaxy 500, and he had a very similar experience. So their song Strange, which was kind of just like non-single track, that has also risen up and has now 11 million plays. So he was curious to why that song suddenly got so many plays. When interviewed about it, Pavement presumed that the reason this had so many plays was because it had gotten onto a playlist, put onto some sort of like best of the 90s or Monday Mood or Saturday Night or Lo-Fi playlist, and it just goes through the roof then because people subscribe to that and it gets on it. Damon Krukowski thought the same thing happened with Strange. He is the leader of this thing called Justify at Spotify, which is basically calling to get more money for each play and for musicians to get more royalties and stuff like that. He went and dug a bit deeper and started looking up into the actual how the algorithms work and all this sort of stuff with Spotify.
Yeah.
He found in January 2017 Spotify introduced the autoplay system.
This is like the song radio or whatever, like after an album or something based on your
Yeah. So based on what you listen to, similar things will come up. So that works on, it's an incredibly complicated algorithm apparently, but it works on kind of like a Shazam sort of thing in that it listens to tempos, keys, recording style, the timbre of a vocal or a guitar and all these things, and it mashes them all together to bring up what they think you like from the stuff you've searched. Basically, before January 2017, songs Strange by Galaxy 500 and Harness Your Hopes by Pavement, they had many plays as you'd expect. Only hardcore fans knew these songs or would go searching for them or listen to the records they were on. So basically, they started getting attached to what sounds like. Krukowski, his problem is he was like, he doesn't think that Strange is a good representation of Galaxy 500 at all. He was like, it's really basic 4/4, very harmonious and very easy on the ear and stuff like that, whereas the rest of their stuff is a bit more challenging and a bit offbeat and stuff like that. So he's like, the algorithm favors simple, straightforward sort of stuff. He thinks that's a bit dangerous or non-representative basically of
the artist or whatever.
Yeah, but then you've got to think these are kind of just like weird freaks of nature, the idea of Harness Your Hopes and Strange, which I think is kind of a cool thing because like it goes back to, I think, what we spoke about before with the Beatles, how since the 70s Rolling Stone has done top 50 albums of all time, and they've always considered Sgt. Pepper's number one because of its cultural impact. But in the last two times they did it, Abbey Road has ranked higher because it's younger writers, because that's just all the writers' room basically writing down what they think the best album ever is or what the best Beatles album is. And Abbey Road has outflanked it. That's basically because as time grows between the event, they start to just judge the music on its content rather than its cultural impact. So yeah, you could say that the same thing happens with Spotify. Is just because Harness Your Hopes didn't fit in on the album at the time, or because it wasn't a single or pushed or marketed at the time. On Spotify, it's just a number. It's just, a song. So you can recycle these songs from years ago that may have fallen through the cracks, and now they can become big songs. So that's a kind of cool thing, I think. But the dangerous thing about what they said their algorithm is, it basically just pushes and markets the heavily marketed songs, because if Spotify are designing the algorithm to a certain thing, like a certain beat, a certain tempo, a certain type of melody, certain timbre and stuff like that, it means that the big songs of the big artists that are a Spotify are in their pockets basically will always be the big ones. So as I'm saying, the guy who wears a Tool t-shirt and stuff like that, the reason Drake is turned up in his top 5 is because Drake is just everywhere. You can't avoid it. Taylor Swift is everywhere. You can't avoid it. So unless you are a massive music fan and you go out of your way to search stuff, if you let Spotify choose your music for you, it's going to end up being those few artists. So it's kind of the first case of AI really dictating what we all do and listen to. It's the exact same thing as that, Social Dilemma movie talked about with politics, Google, Facebook being able to just turn screws and suddenly the whole world is into this or talking about this. My argument is that things have always been that way. Like mainstream media or whoever owns the newspapers, that's how we all think and stuff like that. But it's the fact that it's always in our phone and in front of us every day. It's affecting who does and doesn't get their music listened to, when the joy of the internet was supposed to be that everyone could be listened to.
But no, absolutely, to harness your hopes. Like, I mean, that got me hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah,
that,
exactly. That's, as I say, if you let Spotify just pick the music for you, you will end up with the top 40, because that's what they'll keep throwing at you the most. And then suddenly, if that's just what gets played the most, then suddenly that's what you're into, because it's all that's being thrown to you. Whatever genre you're in, then you'll get thrown Harness Your Hopes. You'll get thrown all these, like, just basically what their algorithm drums up for you. Which, as I've said, that's always the way. In 1991, there was probably much better bands than Nirvana out there that didn't get heard. But because of the marketing machine, Nirvana were the biggest band of 1991.
Yeah.
It is a bit mad that Spotify can be one company that dictate everything, and Google, Facebook, Instagram, all these other things can actually change elections and all this sort of stuff by just turning a few screws and changing what is getting marketed and stuff like that.
But I do think for myself personally, in terms of the algorithm, the benefits of it, obviously, that it does present you music that you mightn't have been, but bands that, you just wouldn't have went out of your way to listen to the previous, like one band in particular. And, the band that we went to see, Le Boucherettes, I completely 100% got into them through Spotify. Like I had no idea of them previous to that. I never came across them in, generic searches on the internet, nothing like that. That came to me purely through the algorithm, and it was scary, that happened to Shane. They nearly around the exact same time. And I remember the two of us, how did we come? It could have been a band practice or something, but the two of us like, oh my God, you listen to the Boucherettes as well. Before we knew it, then obviously their plays were going sky high in Dublin because they had a Dublin date. But that was a great gig and really enjoyed the band. But yeah, look, that's a positive to the algorithm. But yeah,
it's funny that you'd be like, geez, I'm really starting to get into this band or these type of videos on YouTube. And then you meet your friend who's in Australia and they'll go, oh yeah, I'm really starting to get into that now as well. And you're like, it's crazy. How did you just stumble upon that too? It's because you're a male 20-something. It makes you feel like you're just being fed stuff.
You've been duped. It's like, this isn't unique at all.
Yeah. It is funny because I always find, like, whenever I go out of my way or remember a band or read about a band in some book or something like that, and then I look them up, like it could be like a bluegrass band or something like that, they'll never start coming up on my algorithm. But if I listen to like one Men I Trust song, then suddenly I'm just getting King Gizzard, I'm just getting Mac DeMarco, I'm just getting everyone else that's in their hemisphere coming up.
Yeah.
I'll rarely get fed more bluegrass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I'm saying, I don't think this is anything new. I don't think it's any weird, scary AI takeover. It's always been the way with marketing and stuff like that. There's bands that should have gotten places that didn't because they didn't get pushed in the right direction or taken by the right label or anything like that. It's always going to happen.
Oh no, that's it. Like, I mean, previous algorithms, you had teams of people trying to work it out,
Exactly. Yeah. An algorithm is doing that for them now.
So it's, we shouldn't get the tinfoil out just yet, Frank, will we?
Great record.
Excellent album. We learned a lot from
Great
it.
record.
And we're back. So as I mentioned, today is the 8th of December. It's the farmers' shopping holiday in Ireland, but it is also the 40th anniversary since Mr. John Winston Lennon was assassinated by Mark Chapman in New York City. So because of that, we are going to have our classic album be his debut album, the Plastic Ono Band, which Ian is going to tell you all about.
Cheers, Frank. This is his first kind of solo endeavor in terms of the studio. He did do work with a few tracks in that beforehand, not in full album. But this is the first time where he steps into the studio and does a full album. Very pared back now, like production is quite minimal. Just to kind of put it into context, it was very, very soon after the breakup of the Beatles. So around April 1970, which was literally just after the whole blow-up incident of the breakup, both himself and Yoko signed up for primal therapy with the famous, or should I say infamous, Arthur Janov. Initially, it was just a 4-week session in London. And basically, just to kind of give a background of primal therapy, it's where the subject or subjects are actively encouraged to repeatedly kind of revisit, psychologically revisit long repressed childhood trauma. They have to keep on revisiting it until they can kind of pinpoint exactly what is the root of their problem, essentially. So it's all feelings and emotion laid bare, in particular your childhood trauma. Anyway, so John and Yoko, and this was more for John really, but Yoko did participate as well. 4 weeks essentially, initially in London. I think it was on the advice of Janov himself that further sessions were necessary. So Yoko and John got a plane, went off to the US to Janov's actual practice, and a total of 4 months over there. So it was about 5 months of this constant primal therapy. I mean, we'll go through the tracks in a bit, but you can just see it. It's completely laid bare in this album. His whole emotion, in particular, his kind of repressed childhood traumas. With the loss of his mother, his father walking out, etc. And then obviously the breakup just does come into it as well, but not as much. But yeah, so the actual recording of the album itself, it actually took place in 2 venues. A lot of it was in Abbey Road, but also he built a studio with Yoko called Ascot Sound Studios in Tittenhurst Park. So the big landed gentry estate that he bought. So a lot of it was done there as well. But as I was saying earlier on, it's a very pared back production, and that goes for the actual personnel involved as well. So you had John, obviously vocals, guitar, piano. You see Ringo. He brings Ringo in for drums. And then you have Klaus Voormann on bass. So Klaus would have been known to the Beatles during the Hamburg days, and obviously did the famous cover for Revolver and that. So we got Klaus for bass. And we also see the return of Billy Preston on grand piano for that fantastic track, God. And then we have Phil Spector. So John's plan with Phil initially was to co-produce, but sure, Phil Spector at the time, 1970 we're talking about, Phil had a lot of his own issues with various substances. So he really wasn't around at all. Like John and Yoko essentially produced that album. I think the only real involvement Phil had was he did a few kind of mixing things or post-production. He also plays piano as well on Love, but that was kind of Phil's brief encounter with the whole album. But I love in the liner notes, you have that personnel there, and then you have Yoko on Wind, and Mal Evans for Tea and Sympathy. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Anyway, so that's kind of, that it's that pared back kind of approach to the album where he kind of wanted just his own feelings and thoughts and emotions to speak for themselves, and not, I wouldn't say hide behind a big wall of production, a lot more stripped back. And when you go through the tracks, like, the opening Mother, like that is just, that lays it all bare, And then as you go through the album, Hold On, you have a bit of hope there, but still very bitter. I found out, like there's a lot of songs where it's just, Jesus, he has some chip in his shoulder here, Is it just, is it not? That's the whole debate with Lennon, isn't it? Working class hero then. His contemporary critics at the time was like, this is rich coming from a guy living in Tittenhurst Park,
And didn't really come from a working class background.
Exactly, he didn't. That's the thing. I think like the other lads were more working class than John, like
big time, yeah.
And then so you work through the album there. You're about halfway there then with Isolation, lovely track, real nice. Again, obviously a lot of emotional, psychological things going on there. Then you've Remember the 5th of November. I love that at the end. Remember the 5th of November. Nice ode to Guy Fawkes and our tinfoil hat we were talking earlier on.
He's way ahead of his time.
Way ahead. And then you have that lovely track, Love. Very simple, very pared back. Phil on piano. Always thought it was Lennon, to be honest with you. And then when I found out it was, I was shocked. God, it's the only useful thing he did on that bloody album. And then one of our favorites then, Well, belter of a track. And then, the last 3 tracks then are just massive hitters in terms of, he doesn't give it an absolute continental what people think. But like 9 is kind of, it's a real introspective look, and then an introspective look at, like, look at me. What am I supposed to do now? I'm done with the Beatles. This is me. This is my solo career. This is what I'm about. It's nearly like a sense, I don't know, was he looking for a sense of approval or something,
Yeah, I think the whole album is more so his therapy than the Primal Scream therapy was. Yeah, he was obviously coming from the Beatles. Like, realistically, how can you not be a bit mad in the head after the trouble he had with his parents and then becoming famous in his early 20s? And not just becoming famous, becoming like the most famous we'd ever seen in the course of humanity, basically. And then growing up in front of the world, having this existential crises when all these new spiritualities came out, and like the cultural awakening and stuff like that of the 60s. So yeah, he didn't get sucked into any of the, because he was bitter and English and repressed and stuff like that, so he wasn't going to get sucked into all the Hare Krishna stuff or the meditation type stuff. He'd been through all of that. He'd done the psychedelic drug stuff, so he was obviously going to be fairly disillusioned at the age of 30 and want to be a grown-up. But he also hadn't figured out any of his life because he'd been famous through like the turmoil of his 20s, and he hadn't figured out any of his childhood problems. So yeah, I think it's just a case of a man going through therapy in front of everyone. But I think that was his therapy as a creative person. He needed to get those songs out of him. You can't say it was a mistake or he was looking for recognition with any of it or anything like that, because he probably was. It's like most creative people are with things. He just didn't want any bullshit, and obviously he was going to lash out a lot of songs like that to cope with it himself.
Like, I mean, that's it. And like last 2 tracks, the big hitter, God, where he rejects everything. That what you literally just said there. And then that probably possibly one of the first examples of a mainstream lo-fi track, My Mummy's Dead. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
I was thinking that was coming. Bedroom recording.
Yeah, bedroom recording, exactly. But Lennon himself, he was asked, obviously multiple times throughout his solo career, right up until his death, about what was his favorite work. And time again, he said he was most proud of Plastic Ono Band.
The production of that album is such a weird thing to put your finger on. Because I remember hearing somebody talk about the production of that when I was quite young. And usually when you hear someone talk about the production of an album, it's because it's extravagant or it's big. So when you hear someone talk about Wall of Sound, you go and listen to it and you're like immediately like blown away. You're like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Or Sgt. Pepper's, or Pet Sounds. Then I always heard people going on about the production of John Lennon albums, like Plastic Ono album is my favorite produced album. And then I remember listening to it the first time, I was like, it sounds shit. It's really weak and like minimal. But then like I don't know, the more I listened to it and got hooked on it, you're like, this is amazing. And the same thing as Lennon, you go, everyone else is full of shit, aren't they? Because this is music. This is literally just
exactly
as not sterile, but it's as empty as it gets, and it is literally just laid bare. This is what it sounds like, and these are the songs. This is what I'm saying, and like even like the way Ringo plays the drums and stuff. There's not like you wouldn't even notice drums are on some of those songs until someone goes, "Is there drums on that?" And you go, "I think there was." Like it was only today when I was looking at credits, I was like, "Just Love doesn't actually have any drums on it," but there's a few that don't have it. That's just how subtle the drums are on the album.
I suppose the only non-subtle overt drumming is on God. I absolutely love this fact on God. I just love it that not one fill is repeated. You know, they are all unique fills. Every single fill is unique.
There's a 17 or something, isn't there?
I think that's what it clocks in as, but I just love that. They are all unique. You know, he doesn't repeat them at all, you know. Fantastic. But yeah, just when you're on about it being laid bare, and you know, that's the beauty of it. Like a lot of the contemporary critical reception of the album, a lot of it was negative, you know, an awful lot of it was negative. Like The Guardian at the time, NME at the time, you know, they thought it was a very selfish album. You know, they thought it was just, you know, he's just like they thought it was very hypocritical as well. Again, they were playing this whole look at him living there in his big mansion, saying how you know, poor and oppressed he is. You know, like it's terrible now. Obviously, it's not the right way to look at it at all, but that was the line they went for, and the production was pulled up on as well. That, you know, compared to the Beatles, you know, the George Martin era, you know, but his fans in the critical realm, the contemporary critical realm, I think was the likes of The Village Voice and I think High Fidelity. I think High Fidelity they were either finished at the time, or I think the journalist was now freelance at this point, but he worked for High Fidelity. But they in particular went for the angle of the sparse production. That's what you wanted on that type of album, you know, like for what he was trying to go for, what he was laying bare, you know.
Yeah, you could see why it would get slated at the time. For anyone listening to us talking to this who isn't a Beatles fan or isn't a John Lennon fan or just hasn't heard it, go and listen to it because it is so different, especially now in modern times, to go back and listen to something so simple in terms of production. Because as I'm saying, it's so hard to put your finger on because it's simple, but it's also not that simple. It's not a bedroom recording. It's not lo-fi. It's not devoid of any effects because there is like these subtle, perfect levels of slapback reverb, and every so often there is like a big blast of reverb and stuff like that where needed. But everything is kind of so muted and just not in your face. So I think, yeah, anyone who likes music and stuff like that, but who hasn't actually listened to it, definitely go and listen to it because it is unique. Because I personally, as a massive Beatles fan, didn't like any of the Beatles solo stuff and just constantly just kind of went, oh, that's where it is. Because when you think of the Beatles solo, you kind of think of Wings, or you think of McCartney because he's still knocking around, and that's what you think of when you think of Beatles solo. But like, you go listen to that and it's a whole other world to the Beatles, but it's, I think, the easiest step into getting into the Beatles solo work.
I think for me, the early solo stuff, I mean, classic Ono Band and then All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. I think those two albums are just absolutely phenomenal outputs.
But I think, weirdly enough, I think if you're to compare it to All Things Must Pass, it was two lads making a statement in a very different way.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
All Things Must Pass was him making a statement of, I can do everything the Beatles did and better completely by myself in terms of overdubs, big sounds, unbelievable songwriting, and just a big professional sounding album. And John Lennon was making a statement of just like, I don't need any of those things that I was kind of hiding behind in the Beatles. I just need my opinion and my statements, and I'm free now. I'm by myself. I'm away from all that crap. We didn't really plan this. Today is the 8th of December, which is the 40th anniversary of when John Lennon died. But the Plastic Ono Band was actually released on which date?
The 11th.
Which is this coming Friday. So, yeah, 40 years ago to this day he died. 50 years ago to Friday was the album we're speaking about. You'd think we'd have planned that. I was going to say, do you want to hear my Eric Clapton connection? I was gonna go out of my way and try to find something obscure. I didn't come up with anything. It's too obvious. The Plastic Ono Band, I suppose, played in 13th of September 1969. They made a live appearance in the Toronto Music Festival where Eric Clapton played guitar. They played Cold Turkey and lots of old 50s rock and roll songs. He doesn't actually play on the album, does he?
No, he doesn't, Frank. No.
Do you lack self-confidence in the workplace, or simply shit all over yourself at the mere thought of speaking in public or in front of a microphone? Then you need us. Search Goliath Motivation online or visit our center in Athlone. Our 10-week course in character building and self-motivation will turn you from a bumbling asshole into an exuberant go-getter. With borderline sociopathic coaches like me, you cannot fail.
Yeah. I did the 10-week course there now, and it's made me brilliant at talking to the women, and I'd be asking me boss and work for more money and all that. Just it was great altogether.
Shut up! Now give me a fucking guitar solo.
And we are back. And so, because Shane isn't here to give us a round of Fight or Pint, and rumour has it he has a new game that he's going to unveil in our Christmas episode, which is another thing I've just unveiled there.
Get the jingle bells ready.
Yeah. In place of Shane's quiz section, I've come up with a quiz of my own, and it's called the Remember Quiz. And obviously Remember is a track off of the album we just spoke about, the Plastic Ono Band. Track 6.
Check my notes now, Frank. Yes, track 6.
Brilliant.
Excellent, well done.
Elephant's memory. But anyway, so it's a quiz called Remember, and it's a case of which came first. I am going to give a significant thing that happened to John Lennon, and then another historical thing, and you have to tell me which one occurred first.
Cool.
Question 1 in Remember. John Winston Lennon is born, or Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister.
Okay. Oh, God, it's very good. John Lennon is born.
I thought there was a clue in the question.
John Winston. Oh, feck it anyway. Oh, for God's sake. Oh, I'm half asleep, Frank. I'm half asleep. Bloody hell.
So, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister on the 10th of May in 1940. And then John Winston Lennon, who I imagine was named after the current Prime Minister, was born on the 9th of October 1940.
God. Yeah. Okay, right. Right, need to wake up.
Still a chance for 3 out of 4 here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sean Connery stars as the first Bond in Dr. No, and John Lennon got his driver's license. Which came first?
I'm going to say Dr. No.
You're only right.
Ah, yes.
Dr. No was released on the 5th of October 1962, and John Lennon got his driver's license at the age of 24 on the 15th of February 1965.
Yeah, I knew he was late enough on getting it all right.
And then drove for the last time in 1967 after he crashed on a road trip to Scotland with Yoko and Yoko's daughter, Kyoto.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Apparently he was horrendous at driving, and he was always like bumping into things, but when he crashed with a child in the car, he was like, right, I'm never driving again. So that's the last time he actually drove a car himself.
Wow. Wow.
Question 3. John Lennon starts recording his last album, Double Fantasy, or Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back is initially released in the US.
Oh God. Oh God. I'm going to have to say the first initial recording sessions of Double Fantasy were came first.
Came first?
Yeah.
Afraid not.
Oh God, damn it!
So, The Empire Strikes Back was first released in Washington, D.C. on the 17th of May, 1980.
Okay.
The first recording session for Double Fantasy was the 7th of August, 1980.
Really?
Yeah.
God, right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
He was coming from a mixing session when he was shot. These are crueling.
Yeah, they are.
As I said, there was a chance he might get 0, but it wouldn't be to your detriment, really.
Yeah. Well, so many, 1 seems pretty good. Now we'll see how
see if you can get 50%. So question 4, which came first? Richard Nixon becomes the 37th US president, or John Lennon and Yoko Ono get married in Gibraltar.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, I'll put the clue more on the question. Richard Nixon is inaugurated as the 37th US president.
Okay.
Or John Lennon and Yoko Ono get married in Gibraltar.
Okay. I'm going to go for Richard Nixon is inaugurated.
Yes.
Yeah, no, because inauguration, January.
Yeah, no, I'm not that cruel. So yeah, the 20th of January 1969 and the 20th of March 1969 is when they got married in Gibraltar.
Brilliant.
I think we're doing good tribute to old Johnny Boy.
Oh, absolutely.
How's it going? Wolfie Quinn here, wishing you and yours a very happy Christmas. I'll be down the roundabout selling Christmas trees and decorations or whatnot you may need. I'll even put them up around the gaff for you, do anything for a bit of bob, But I let you know now that this Christmas is going to be a good one, and if we all spread a bit of the joy, here we go. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, you up with that Santi Alex, yeah. Merry Christmas to you.
The Elephant Room recommends.
And we're back. Ian, what you got to recommend?
So, in keeping with John Lennon, I'm going to recommend the Dirty Mac. This was the absolute super group that features, your favorite guitarist, Eric Clapton. I think that's all we have to say about it, really, isn't it? No.
He was the third best guitar player in the band.
Yeah, that is true, actually. So, believe it or not, on the same day that the Plastic Ono Band debut album from John Lennon turns 50, the Dirty Mac one-off performance turns 52. So it was the 11th of December 1968, and the whole context was that it was a Rolling Stones TV special, BBC production, so it's called the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. You had basically the Rolling Stones themselves, and they were joined with very famous musician friends, and they'd have jams and cover each other and all that type of thing. But the Dirty Mac, anyway, the name, the Dirty Mac, what? It's a play on Fleetwood Mac. So that's
genuinely didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a play on Fleetwood Mac, and Fleetwood Mac were quite popular at the time in the charts. Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, the original and best Fleetwood Mac. Oh no, all the haters now, Frank. But
nah,
no, I agree. Yeah.
Oh well.
So you had John on guitar and vocals. You had your beloved Eric Clapton on killer lead guitar. You had Keith Richards on bass. It's crazy. And then you had Mitchell on drums, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, the big song they're kind of known for doing is Year Blues. Excellent version. And they do a couple of jams as well. They jam Revolution as well, which is pretty cool. But the actual performance, that the entire Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, you can't get it as an album. It's available on Spotify. You can get CD, vinyl, and that. And as far as I can remember, there's 4 or 5 tracks featuring the Dirty Mac. And there's a few performances, additional things on YouTube. And very recently, actually, it's been restored to 4K on YouTube for free. So it looks fantastic. But yeah, there you go. Just thought I'd tie my recommendation into good old Johnny Boy himself.
My recommendation would be mainly to go listen to loads of John Lennon for the day that's in it, and to listen to his first album, as we spoke about at length, because it's fascinating and timeless. But also, I'd like to recommend a Wexford band called Foot Squeaker, and they released last week a song called Specimen. That's their 3rd single to date. We actually played with them in Wexford maybe 2 years ago now. Jesus. No, it was last year. It was 2019. But yeah, they're a great band. The guitar, I think their guitar sounds are class on everything that they do. They have like the spirit of proper old 90s bands. Good songwriting, good recording quality. Well worth checking out, especially the new song. But yeah, they do good videos and stuff as well. But yeah, check them out. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them on Spotify. We'll also add the new song to our Spotify playlist. Are we good to wrap up our Sans Shane performance?
I think so. Yeah, it's been a good, I hope a good fitting tribute to John Lennon.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've done him some justice here. But yeah, we'll be back next week where we'll have some more special guests, and then after that we'll have a special Christmas episode, which which will be definitely interesting. Anyway, we've nothing planned for it, so fuck knows what'll happen. Yeah, we'll leave it there, I think, Ian.
Cool.
See you later.